Well, you guys did it. You helped me hit 100,000 subscribers, and I've already had the email through from YouTube to confirm my silver play button is on the way. So that's amazing. And in this video, I'm going to start out talking about the stuff that you're probably here for, and then later on, we'll be doing a bit of a ramble as well if you're interested in that. So feel free to stick around. But the things that you're probably here for, first of all, is the sheet for 400 mounts. So that sheet will be linked in the description down below, and I do want to say a thank you to Saskia and Gael for helping me complete this sheet. Their work on the sheet was definitely vital to get it finished. So if you ever see them around in the Discord or whatever, throw them a bit of appreciation for working on the sheet as well. In terms of the sheet itself, when you click on it, you'll find this info page, and it's first of all going to tell you to make a copy. So you'll click File, you'll click Copy, and now you'll have your own version to go through. You can make edits or do whatever you want to do, remove lines, whatever. But the base version is going to be there as kind of like something we update and improve on down the line, so you're not going to be able to edit the base sheet itself. Once you have your version, you'll go to the Neutral tab, and here you're going to find most of the mounts. So from here, you'll see how to obtain the mount, how many mounts you're going to get from doing this activity. You'll have kind of like a little TLDR, and then you'll also have links to videos and written guides if we've done those so far from Terrain Game or from my own YouTube channel. Now, something you need to keep in mind is this sheet goes through 400 and more mounts. We actually have a bit more than 400 in here, and it's hard to kind of have 400 easy mounts within the game, so we've had to choose the easiest. And a lot of those are going to be down to personal opinions and things like that. But if there's any that you really disagree with, then on the info page, you'll find a form. You can fill out that form and say which mount should be removed, your reasoning why, and which mount should replace it. Because it's easy to say, well, this mount shouldn't be on here, but if you don't have a good replacement for it, then it's kind of hard to agree with you, right? Because it's easy to say, well, this mount isn't that easy, but if you don't have an easier mount to replace it with, then that's going to be the best bet, right? And what we'll do is take a look at the feedback every once in a while, and if your thoughts and reasoning are quite strong and solid, then we'll be like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll replace this mount with this other mount. Or if a lot of people are saying similar things like, oh, this mount shouldn't be on here, then we'll look for alternatives. And with new patches will come new mounts, and some of those will be easy as well. So if those are easier than some of the ones we've already got on this sheet, we will be updating it as time goes on. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this kind of thing is hard to get right on the first pass, but we are going to be improving it and making updates as time goes on. So if you don't agree with something for now, then, check back in a couple of months or whatever, and hopefully the sheet is in a much better place. Either way though, if you're new to mount collecting, this should hopefully help you on your journey. Another thing for you to make use of as well is going to be the Mount To Do tracker. So you'll click the link in the description down below as well. You'll make a copy of it, and this will have various daily and weekly tasks for you to do involving mounts. So it'll have things that you can attempt daily, as in something you can kill and have a chance at a mount, but also daily tasks such as daily quests and things like that as well that you can do to work towards mounts too that you do not own. And it works in a similar way where you can tick off or remove obtained mounts and hide them. You can add your various different characters, and it's something that's not fully complete yet, but as time goes on, it will be updated and improved. I'm also thinking about adding an additional tab for kind of like weird case things, such as the like Warfront mounts, because those don't quite work on a daily or weekly reset. It's like every 3 weeks. So maybe I'll have a place for like these weird ones that don't quite fit anywhere else, but we'll see. For now though, it's daily and weekly, so hopefully you find some use in that too. The next thing to talk about is Terrain Game. This is something a lot of you have probably not heard about so far, but it's a project I've been working on for quite a long time. It started out as something called WoW Mount Guides, which was a website where you could go and you would find out information about just mount guides in particular. But now I'm trying to expand it to be more kind of broad and cover multiple areas of World of Warcraft, and we're expanding the team. I have some people being brought on for video creation, more people being brought on to write, and the first thing we're still working on though is the mount tool. So this will be a place where you can go to, you can load in your character, it'll show you a ton of different mounts that you own and do not own, you'll be able to filter them, blah blah blah. And some of you have said in the past, like, why do this when Simple Armory exists? And I agree in some cases. Simple Armory is great for just getting a good general overview of what you own and do not own, very clean and simple. However, if you try to go a little bit deeper, you want to find out how to actually obtain those mounts that you do not own, then you're going to be sent to Wowhead, and you've got to hope there's an updated guide on Wowhead or the comments are up to date, and there's times where that just isn't the case. A great example of this is Sarge. A few months back, I went to make a video on Sarge, and the current up-to-date info was telling people to do a 2 to 3 hour tutorial, which takes an easy mount that should only take 10 minutes into something that will take 3 to 4 hours. But I actually dug deep and actually found out there's a way to skip that 3 to 4 hour tutorial, and you can go straight into the 10-minute tutorial. And now my comment is the most voted on Wowhead because that information just wasn't there previously, and now it's up to date and people are like, oh, thank you for this, you know? So the idea would be once we've written all the guides, we're missing about 300 currently, hopefully we'll knock those out in the next few months. Once that is all complete, we can go back and update all the guides that are kind of outdated now or need improving. And then once that is all finally done, because it is a mammoth task having to write 1,000 guides, once that is all done, then we can keep on top of things. We can write guides for the new mounts coming, but also any changes to old mounts or whatever. We can keep that information nice and fresh so that whenever you click a mount that you do not own, you'll have the best, hopefully, information available for you there. And as things expand, we'll cover other areas, you know, general kind of class stuff or other collection stuff. And hopefully it'll just be a good hub for both video and written content around kind of news and guides for World of Warcraft. That's the goal anyway. If you are interested in contributing to the project, then we are still on the lookout for video creators and writers. Not so much on the video side. I have brought some people on and we're going to kind of see how things go. But if you're interested in putting your name forward for when I'm looking again, then feel free to check out the application forms down below. But writers, especially mount guide writers, we are definitely in need of. So if you're interested, check out the links in the description down below. The final thing I want to quickly say about Terrain Game is the mount collection tool is going to have a big update soon. It's currently called the mount search tool. It'll become the mount collection tool. And with that update as well, it's going to add things like, you know, better layout. So it's not all kind of this big block of filters and stuff at the top. It's going to be much cleaner. It's also going to get some performance updates, and we'll hopefully add in an easy mount button. So you'll click that button after you've loaded your character, and now it'll highlight the next mounts that you do not own as the next kind of easy suggestion. So say, for example, you don't own the brown bear from Dalaran, it'd be like, well, go buy this bear, it's quite cheap, and that'll be another mount for your collection that you do not own. But let's say you've got no gold right now, so you don't want that. So then you can click next easiest mount button, and it'll take you to the next mount on that kind of like hidden list, and it'll show you the next one that we think you should target that you do not own. And then you'll be able to reset back to the brown bear if you want to, right? You know, back to the beginning. That's the idea anyway, and hopefully we'll be making improvements to the mount collection tool as time goes on. But I'm quite excited for this update when we do get it. So the final of the goodies to talk about is going to be the World of Warcraft War Within Epic Edition. So 2 people will be able to get their hands on a copy of the War Within Epic Edition, which comes with everything, basically the early access, the beta access, the mounts, the pet, whatever else is in there. You'll be able to gain access to that, and 2 people can get it. It's going to be randomly picked from comments down below. Doesn't really matter what you comment. If you want to comment about the thing you're most excited about with the, you know, expansion, or something you'd like to see from Terrain Game, or some ideas and suggestions for the tool, or just something nice to say, as long as it's not mean and you know your comment doesn't seem like a bot comment or something, then you should have no reason to be excluded. But it doesn't have to be anything in particular, and you don't even need to be subscribed. So just leave a comment and 2 people will be picked at the end of the month. Those are all of the 100k celebration goodies. The next part of the video is basically just going to be me hanging out and talking about a few things like the future of the channel, the journey, 100k, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, then, you know, stick around, and in the background I'm just going to be doing some mount farming stuff for some mounts I still don't own. So let's jump into it. So the first thing obviously is going to be hitting 100k subscribers. It's not something I thought I'd hit anytime soon, honestly, because over the years my subscriber gain has gone up quite slowly, even though the views for my channel are pretty good. Like if you compared my views, my total views, to some other channels that are in like other niches, you probably see that they have like closer to 200k or more subscribers with the same amount of views. And it just comes with the territory of the type of content I do, right? Like information-based content, it works quite well on YouTube. People come, they'll get their information, and then they'll typically leave because it's not like an entertaining video. It doesn't really stick with you. Like I don't stick with a lot of people who watch the videos, but they'll just get the information and leave them. That's fine, you know. Obviously, that's the trade. I get the view, they get the information. So it's always been kind of like a slow push for a good amount of subscribers. It improved a lot when I moved over to doing like the guides that are kind of disguised as not guides anymore, like the how to get 10 mounts while doing a handstand or whatever, you know, whatever weird guide ideas I've managed to come up with over the years for like pushing mount content, because they're not as typical as just like a how to get X guide. Instead, it brings in more people who kind of want to, maybe they're just intrigued to see what's included in the list, or they want to see any mounts that they're potentially missing that they could go for, or they just want like a big guide that runs through multiple things so they can work on one, and then, you know, they have a list of things to target basically. So it just gives a much broader audience a much more varied audience for who'd be interested in clicking, instead of the typical guides where it's just like, well, I'm going to click this because I want to know about this specific one thing. And that definitely improved sub gain, but it still wasn't crazy. And then I started doing the kind of push for subscribers, and it probably like 3 to 4x subscriber gain on videos, especially the big videos. So that was a massive increase. It was way more than I thought it would be. And it makes me wonder like how far the channel could have gone subscriber wise if I was doing that the entire time. Now I'm not going to be doing subscriber pushing anymore because there's not really much point in it. But it does make me wonder, especially during Shadowlands where I was hitting like 200 million views. No, not 200 million, sorry, I wish. 2 million views a month. How well the channel could have done if I was doing more of like a subscriber push back then. But either way, we hit 100k. I got the form filled out to get my silver play button, and it's on its way. Whether it arrives in time, I'm not sure. I might not be in the country anymore when it does arrive, which would be super sad. But at least I know it's on its way, and one day I'll get to see it. And then, you know, it's official kind of like confirmation that YouTube's like, yep, you've done it. Yep, it's all good. There's your reward, which I think is kind of cool. And I wish more platforms did that. Because even though it probably doesn't cost them much, like, you know, they take like 40% of everyone's money. So in terms of what they're giving back is pretty small, but it just feels good. You know, we don't really want much, don't expect much. So just getting these little things is kind of quite big. So I'll talk more about what I was saying a moment ago about not being in the country. We'll get to that in a little bit. In terms of hitting 100k, I definitely appreciate everyone who's helped along the way. There's been people who've been like, I share your videos with my guild and, you know, tell them to subscribe and stuff, which is pretty cool. And there's people who have been here, you know, short term, you know, you've not been here long, but you've enjoyed the new content. There's people who've been here since my guides were absolutely terrible years and years ago, and you've supported all those years. So I definitely appreciate both sides. Especially the people who stuck around when I've been inactive. I've had multiple periods where I've kind of like gone and done other stuff and not touched my channel for like a year or something, or like 6 months, and you just had no content, but you were like, well, I like his video, so I'm going to hopefully stick around and hopefully he returns. And yeah, I definitely appreciate that. But it's been crazy, right? Like, for the people who have been here for a long time, you've been here since like the TGM WoW days, or the streaming days where I'd be streaming, knocking out like 24-hour streams like nothing, or the marathon stream days where I was doing like the 1 to max levels and streaming for like 60 hours. Got some crazy days. So if you've enjoyed those kind of contents over the year, then, well, I'm glad. Especially the stream stuff, because I don't really see myself as like an entertaining person, so people who watch streams was like big. Nowadays, I don't do streaming anymore because it just felt a bit too much, especially with how WoW is nowadays, and I'll talk more about what I mean by that in a moment. But back then, playing WoW for like 12 hours, 20 hours a day was fine. You know, I had tons of content still to do. There was tons of things for me to collect, and I was just happy just kind of playing, you know, just grinding battlegrounds or whatever, or leveling alts and stuff, and it just felt fine. But nowadays, I don't feel the same way, so doing these really long streams wouldn't be very fun for me. Like, I don't want to sit and play WoW most of the time for 8 hours. During new patches, new content, I'm happy to spam out the game, but during those down periods, I don't really want to force myself to just play for the sake of like keeping the stream going. And that's kind of how it ended up feeling. And not only that as well, you're kind of like locked in. Like, to do well on streams, you've got to stream typically for a prolonged period. Especially like World of Warcraft, you got to do like long sessions typically. And I'm more of like I like to dip into different things at times. Like, maybe I want to edit a video for a little bit, or maybe I want to work on something else for a little bit. With streaming though, you kind of sat locked in for like 8 hours, and you don't even really get to eat or drink if you really want to min-max. So it's pretty rough. Well, you can drink obviously, but eating like a proper meal or whatever is kind of rough, because if you take a break, take like a 15-minute break, you're going to lose viewers, or if you're eating on stream, people get annoyed, they're going to leave. So it's weird. So I ended up not enjoying that as much. Even though I enjoy streaming, if I could just dip in and dip out here and there, it wouldn't have any negative impacts or whatever, then I'd probably do streaming more, but you can't really do that. It doesn't work. And especially if you could stream any game you wanted and still kind of kept the same viewer base and stuff, that'd be great, but you know, that's obviously also not how it works. So that's why I don't stream as much. And I mentioned as well about WoW being in a different kind of state. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. 1 second. Need a little bit of a water. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. The patches nowadays come a lot more frequent. There's just not as much in them. So I just kind of feel more done faster, you know? Like the big dig patch 10.2.5, even though a lot of it was encrypted or whatever, I didn't get to do much on the PTR. When it came out on live, it probably took me 30 minutes or whatever to do the Battlefield Ghanaia's stuff. And then to farm out the mounts for the big dig. I actually need the currency one still, but I just need to do the weekly, and I think I've got that. But it's not been much time investment. So the actual content itself doesn't take too long to get kind of done. And it's even the same with the seasonal stuff, like 10.2 itself. I mean, obviously I had the advantage of knowing stuff from PTR, but jumping into it, I knocked out my renown and all my mounts within like 2 weeks. I cleared heroic for rack. I did my seasonal mythic plus mount, and then I felt just kind of done. You know, like I didn't really want to push myself to do other stuff because I'd done the bulk of it. I could go mythic raid or whatever, but I don't really like that anymore. Mythic raiding got to the point where it was more stressful than it was fun, especially when it was more like, you know, one person just keeps wiping you over and over again. It's not their fault. It's just more of like how the fights are designed, where like one mistake is everyone dead. And sometimes that's you. You're the one making the one mistake and killing everyone, and they're getting frustrated at you and stuff. It just wasn't much of a fan. While heroic, you know, it's chill. You know, you can do some logging. The fights aren't too difficult, like for the most part. Like there's a few mechanics here and there that might get you, but it's pretty straightforward. There's not any crazy stuff you need to do. So I'm quite content with heroic, I think. And I can pug it, is the main thing, honestly. If I could pug mythic raiding, I'd probably be a lot more interested, but you gotta wait until... I mean, you can pug, but pugging mythic's kind of awkward with the fact that you're still just locked. You kill a boss and you're basically locked. If it was more like heroic, where you can re-clear and stuff and you don't get loot, then I'd probably be down to at least do the first few bosses in mythic. But having to dedicate to like set hours and stuff as well with mythic raiding, not really interested. Anyway, I've managed to go on a massive random rant about something that's not completely relevant. Anyway, so current patches feel like you're kind of in and out very quick. And for that, it just feels like I don't have as much that I want to do. There's still things I could be doing, for sure. Like there's still pets I don't have, achievements I don't have. I just don't really want to do them. I have a good amount of the mounts, and that's the side of collection that I like doing. And I just don't really, you know, I just don't really want to do the other stuff. So I just don't. I go play other stuff or work on other things. And that's why I'm also trying to push true endgame a lot more, because I think with the way WoW is going, having more varied content would be good. And it also allows me to do shorter guides again without really impacting the channel. Because if you've been around for a long time, you probably saw way back in the day, I used to do like these very short, just like very specific guides on one topic. And I don't really do those as much anymore because they just hurt the channel, right? Like doing a very short guide on one thing is only going to get people who are interested in that one thing to watch it. And unless it's a mount or something else quite like high interest, it just isn't going to get many views. And I'd be fine with that if it didn't kind of feel like it impacts the channel, which is where True Endgame has two channels. It has a light channel and it has like a main channel. And the light channel is just going to be there for just these very short guides and pieces of info and news and stuff, where we don't really need to care about like the YouTube algorithm or anything like that. It's just going to be people searching for that information in particular, and they'll find hopefully a big library of stuff on the True Endgame Light channel. And then the main channel is going to be for more of that like algorithm fed content, where it's like big like top 10s and everything come in and how you need to do all these things now, or do this before it's too late. You know, these crazy YouTube titles that you've got to do. It's more that high end effort content. Because the current guides I do on my channel, I like to a degree, but it's also hitting a point where it's like, how many more times can I kind of rework some of these mounts into a video before I'm just tired of talking about some of these mounts? For example, the Bronze Drake. Man, if you look through some of my guides, I probably covered that mount like 10 times. And that's mainly because the easy mount guides do the best, and Bronze Drake is notorious as one of the easiest mounts, right? But it's like, I think most people even own that nowadays. But if you don't include it, people are like, oh, but the Bronze Drake is the easiest. And you're like, ugh. So then I've tried to come up with ideas that allow me to not include the Bronze Drake, which you've probably noticed, where I'm like, easy mounts that you can get that take like a day, you know? And it's like, well, the Bronze Drake takes like 10 minutes, so we can exclude this because we're going to focus on things that are more of like a day-long grind. But eventually I'm just going to hit a point where I'm just repeating the same mounts over and over. And when I do that, I'm not as interested in the video because I like to provide as much new value as I can. And that's, you know, where a lot of my guide ideas have come from, is trying to provide like unique and different value in the videos. So we'll see how things go like that. The next thing to talk about is going to be, me moving. So in less than a month, I'm going to be jumping on a plane. I'm going to be flying away for 18 hours to a country. And yeah, I'm going to be staying there, assuming I can get my long-term visa, because I'm currently on a temporary visa. I'll be over there, and then I have to do the final application form for the full visa. But at this point, with everything else that's been approved, not getting that is pretty unlikely. It could happen, and you know, I need to plan just in case it does, but it's quite unlikely. So that would push me towards a long-term visa, and then I'd be there for at least a year on like a year renewable visa until either they kick me out or I don't want to be there anymore, basically. So yeah, we're going to see how that goes. Maybe I'll be doing some IRL content, especially I got inspired by someone called Lazy Pian. You've probably seen him. He used to be a WoW creator, does just general MMO stuff nowadays. But he did like a My Life's an MMO or something. And he had his kind of stats up as like what he wants to work on. So like, here's my current charisma, here's my current fitness or whatever. And I want to improve these to like max level. And that's something I won't mind doing because I'm always going to be a gaming degenerate. I've kind of fought with this in my mind for a while where it's like, oh, I need to grow up and get away from this stuff. But it's like, do I? Who says who? You know? But I do definitely need to grow up in some regards where, you know, I'm taking better care of myself and I'm seeing more things and just kind of getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. It doesn't have to be full on like quit everything, you know, you never game again. But I feel like you need to find a balance where you slowly incorporate this stuff. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do, especially with being in a new country. It feels like a bit of a waste to not take advantage of that and, you know, explore and see some things and do things that I normally wouldn't do, get out of my comfort zone a little bit more. But I'm not going to be going full in and like, oh, I'm going to be out every day. I'm going to always be outside and never play games again. Like, I'm probably still going to be a gaming degenerate that sits and plays games, especially new launches for like 10 to 16 hours a day and just can't get enough of it, you know? Like, that's still going to be something I always do. But yeah, I'm going to try and find more of a reasonable balance. It's not going to be a full 50-50 balance, but, you know, push in some normie stuff in there, here and there, basically, and kind of improve and work on some of my other, like, MMO stats in IRL. So you may even see some IRL content. I don't think it would be on this channel, and I don't even know if I'm going to announce the channel if I do make one for IRL. So maybe one day you'll watch a video and you'll be like, wait a minute, that voice sounds familiar. Or maybe even some of you will be like, wait a minute, that face looks familiar. I don't think many people even know what I look like. But if you do, then yeah, you might see my face or voice in some kind of, you know, content that's IRL one day. In terms of what's going to be going on with the channel, though, it's still going to be just general mount and WoW stuff. I'm not really going to move away from WoW on the channel. I think it's too kind of like built into the channel at this point. I definitely wouldn't mind doing some other games, but I think I'd start a new channel for that or a new project for that because, yeah, I think it would just make more sense, you know? I don't want to push stuff. You guys are here for WoW, so I'm just going to give you WoW here, you know? But there will be some of my WoW stuff moving over to True Endgame because it allows me to just work on these shorter guides and do some bigger guides here and there as well, stuff that I normally wouldn't do on this channel. But outside of that, yeah, here's just going to be for the general kind of like stuff you'd normally expect to see, basically. If I did make another gaming channel, I think it would just be for whatever I'm interested in at the time because, as I said, I'm the kind of gamer who jumps into a new game and will just sit and spam it out every day. You know, I wake up and I'm excited to just get into it. For example, Lost Ark came out and I ended up with like 800 hours on it. I don't play it anymore because I just kind of got bored of the repetitiveness of like Chaos Dungeons and stuff. But when it first came out, I was just waking up, Lost Ark all day. Go to bed, wake up, Lost Ark, you know, that was my cycle. And Pal World recently, that came out, you know, go to bed, wake up, gotta go catch 10 pals, get to level 50, go kill all the towers. And I was doing that until I was done with the game. And I think that gives me an advantage over some other creators for gaming guide content in the fact that I can just completely no life a game and while more casual players will not be able to do that. You know, they got work and stuff. So that just put me at an advantage for making, you know, my kind of guides, but in these other games. So maybe it's something I'll look to do. Not too sure yet. We'll see how things go. But it's definitely something I've been sitting on for a while because I like making guides and I like playing other games as well. So why not put both of those things together to give me kind of like a fresher outlook on gaming content? Because obviously been doing World of Warcraft for God knows how many years now. And it is nice to kind of have something new to kind of work on and go towards. But as I said, the Syiler channel will just pretty much stay World of Warcraft, I think. I don't really think it makes sense to bring those new guides over to this channel suddenly. So I'd probably start something new. Once again, not too sure if I'd announce it, or one day you'll just hear a guide, you'll be playing a new game, and you'll be like, how do I do this thing? And you'll be like, what's up guys, Syiler here. And you'll be like, wait a minute. But we'll see how that goes as well. Oh, going back a little bit as well, I did mention I was going to be moving country, which is why I might not get my silver play button. But did anyone notice my mic quality sounds different from normal? Hopefully you didn't. You probably did though. It definitely is a little bit more scuffed right now, but the difference is my old setup I'm selling because the old microphone's quite heavy. It had a big mixer with it as well, which is, you know, quite heavy and kind of unneeded. It's just a lot of stuff to take that I don't really need. So I got a new microphone that's like £140, something like that. But this mic is honestly pretty good. It's very lightweight, can be put on a mic arm or on the desk, has a ton of different features with it, has like a virtual audio setup built into it. So it has a lot of the stuff that I'd need out of my old setup, but in a much cheaper and compact setup, basically, which is great for kind of traveling around and stuff. Now, the mic quality isn't as good, but there are still tweaks and things that I can do to get it much closer. Right now, I'd say it's probably like 60%-ish of my old quality, maybe. If I could get it to like 90%, I'd be over the moon. I mean, that obviously means I wasn't pushing my old mic to its best kind of performance, but it's hard to know. I'm not an audio guy. I don't know how to perfectly like EQ my microphone and stuff. So if I can get this microphone as close as possible, then I'd be very, very happy with that. And hopefully not many people even noticed it was different. And if you did, it felt fine. You know, you weren't like, oh God, it sounds so bad now. If it does, then I guess it's probably worth you letting me know. And if you can, if anyone's audio mans, then say what in particular you felt was off by it. And then I can kind of try and work on that specific area. Because I have like EQ software with this mic as well. It's just more digital and it's harder to kind of like, it's weird. Basically, there's like dots and lines and stuff. So I got to pull things up and down to try and figure out what's exactly where it needs to be. But that's most of my random waffling out of the way. I guess I'll talk a little bit about what I wanted Trend Game to be, or like the vision for it. And I've tried things like this in the past. I think this is the best or closest we've got to for it to be like something real this time. Like I feel like the team we've got on board is pretty good and it's a good foundation for kind of building upon. But if you're not familiar with what Trend Game is, then there'll be links in the description down below to what the website and stuff is for now. But I'd love to push it in the direction of what TGN WoW was. If you don't know what TGN WoW was, it's basically like the birthplace of a lot of big WoW content and just content creators in general, really. Like Towel, if you're familiar with him, came from TGN WoW or was making content with them at least. Bajira was making content with TGN WoW. I think even Preach might have threw some channels on videos on the channel back then. Rurikan. There's been a load. There's been a load of people. So there's been a ton of people who came from that, and I'd love to recreate something similar where back then we weren't really expecting to make any money from it. It was just a bunch of people who really liked World of Warcraft, wanted to try and make content, and we weren't really collabing and stuff, but we were just kind of working towards a common goal, you know, like we wanted to build up this channel and it'd be the best place for WoW content and all this stuff. So that was cool, you know? So I'd like to try and make something that's at least in that direction again. As I said, I've tried in the past and failed. But this feels like the closest attempt we've got, even though we've still not really even launched yet. At least we're in the right direction and we've had hundreds of guides written and stuff, so it feels like things are making good progress. But whether it goes anywhere from there, who knows? Maybe it'll flop and it'll end up just being another thing that's kind of left to the sides to die. But I'm going to give it a good go, either way. I'll probably finish up the 2 of the Shadowlands videos. And if 10.2.6 launches before I move, then maybe I'll cover that, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to come out as I move or a week or 2 after, which might even mean I can't cover it at all, depending on when it releases. We don't have a date yet. Ideally, it would come out like mid-March for me, selfishly, but hopefully for everyone else it comes out early March, but that would be kind of rough for me at least. Outside of that, hopefully you're enjoying whatever it is you're enjoying. Once again, I appreciate the support over the years or months or days, however long you've been around for. And hopefully you continue to enjoy and support the content, whether it's the World of Warcraft content or if you end up finding some of my other content that I may or may not make, then yeah, hopefully you enjoy it regardless. Either way, thanks for watching guys, look out for more guides coming soon. See ya.